This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everyone. Today, my topic of discussion is systemic sclerosis. Systemic sclerosis is one of the most devastating autoimmune disorder of connective tissue disorders. It is the classical feature of scleroderma is increased fibroblastic activity results in vascular damage, collagen accumulation, and scarring of skin and fibrosis. The precursor of collagen is fibroblasts. Fibroblasts generate collagen and components of extracellular matrix. Collagen is the component of many connective tissue disorders in tendons, ligaments, skin, cornea, cartilage, bone, blood vessels, gut, and intervertebral disc and dentin. The marked feature or classical feature of scleroderma or systemic sclerosis is increased fibroblastic activity resulting in abnormal growth of connective tissue. This causes vascular damage and fibrosis. Fibrosis occurs in skin and gastrointestinal tract, and almost every organ can be affected in systemic sclerosis. Systemic sclerosis, otherwise called as scleroderma. It is an acquired sporadic disease. There is no genetic inheritance for this systemic sclerosis. Most of the connective tissue disorders are sporadic disorders. It affects all races. Incidence is 9 to 19 cases per million per year. There is a female predominance, like 4 to 5:1. Like other connective tissue disorders, systemic scleroderma also common in females. The peak age of onset is third to sixth decade. Peak age of onset is 35 to 64 years. Scleroderma is commonly seen in African American more than whites. Juvenile onset systemic sclerosis is very rare. Coming to etiology, there are idiopathic causes, genetic predisposition, and environmental factors like infection with viruses, like cytomegalovirus, can induce autoimmunity that mimics systemic sclerosis. Chemicals like vinyl chloride, pesticides, and silica, and drugs like cocaine, appetite suppressants, and vitamin K. These all can induce autoimmunity in scleroderma. This is the classical pathophysiological features of scleroderma. And this is the flowchart depicting pathophysiology of scleroderma. There is endogenous or exogenous pathogen like cytomegalovirus infection leads to stimulation of antigen presenting cells. These antigen presenting cells promote antigens to CD4 T cells. These CD4 T cells generate the production of cytokines like tumor necrosis factor alpha, interleukin 1, and fibroblast growth factor. All of those cytokines are generated. This can stimulate growth factors. Growth factors like fibroblast growth factor and platelet derived growth factor or transforming growth factor beta. They promote increased production of collagen, leads to thickening of intima. Intima is one of the component of vessel wall, leads to vascular damage or vascular thickening. This vascular thickening causes there is a narrowing of lumen of vasculature, leads to reduced blood supply to tissues. These reduced blood supply, more than 50% reduction of blood flow to any organs can cause ischemia. There are the two main components of systemic sclerosis, that is limited scleroderma and diffuse scleroderma. Other very rare types are scleroderma sign sclerosis. This is the limited scleroderma. Most of the cases are almost 70% of the systemic sclerosis cases are limited scleroderma. This is a milder disease with less organ involvement and slow onset and slow progression, affect distal to elbows and knees. Only peripheries are affected in limited cutaneous scleroderma. There is perioral involvement, no trunk involvement. This is the abbreviated form of limited scleroderma, that is CREST syndrome. CREST means C means calcinosis, R means Raynaud phenomenon, E means esophageal dysmotility, S means sclerodactyly, T means telangiectasia. This is calcinosis in CREST syndrome. Calcinosis means there is a dystrophic calcification or accumulation of calcium phosphate in tissues, pulp of the fingers or joints, small joints. Most of the time affected joints are small joints like wrist joints, metacarpophalangeal joints, or distal or proximal interphalangeal joints. This is the classical feature of scleroderma. This is another phenomenon, Raynaud phenomenon seen in scleroderma. There are three phases of Raynaud's phenomenon. That is initial pallor, that is because of constriction, severe vasoconstriction leads to severe vasoconstriction or digital arteries leads to reduced blood flow to digits, leads to pallor, appearance of pallor. This is the stage of pallor or algemia, followed by cyanosis. Because of reduced blood flow, there is an increased amount of reduced hemoglobin in peripheral tissues. The reduced oxygen flow leads to discoloration of fingers. That is cyanotic phase, followed by hyperemic rebound. Because of this hypoxia, there is generation of there is production of lactate or reducing substances. These reducing substances causes severe vasodilatation, leads to hyperemia. This is the hyperemic phase. There are three phases in Raynaud's phenomenon. That is initial pallor or algemic phase, followed by cyanosis, followed by severe hyperemia. That is stage of patterning. This is the picture depiction of features of systemic sclerosis or limited cutaneous scleroderma. That is, first one is calcinosis cutis. This is the calcification of soft tissues or distal pulp of the tissue due to accumulation of calcium phosphate. This is Raynaud phenomenon, classical Raynaud phenomenon. There is algemia, there is hyperemia. There are different stages of Raynaud's phenomenon can be happen in peripheries. This is esophageal dysmotility. That is esophageal achalasia, acquired achalasia in a patient with scleroderma. There is a narrowing of distal esophagus. This is thickening of skin. Thickening of skin leads to deformities of hands. There is a flexor contractures. These are the contractures. Flexor contractures are the distal phalanges or proximal interphalangeal joints. And there is a shiny skin or stretched skin. This is because of fibrosis of the skin. Subcuticular. There is accumulation of subcuticular collagen. This is the classical facial features of scleroderma. That this is called as mask of faces. The characteristic feature of scleroderma is mask of faces, because there is atrophy of facial muscles and there is accumulation of collagen in subcuticular tissue, leads to stretching of skin. Appears like a mask. There is diminished facial movements and there is narrowing of oral aperture, leads to microstomia. These are the distal ganglions. These are distal ganglions are seen in severe Raynaud's phenomenon. If there is a severe occlusion of distal arteries, leads to reduced blood flow, causes hypoxia, anoxia, leads to distal gangrene. This is also as calcinosis cutis. This picture depicts distal Raynaud's phenomenon. This picture depicts reduced blood flow in distal arteries or severe vasoconstriction of distal arteries or abrupt termination of distal arteries. This is a nail-fold capillaroscopy. This is a normal nail-fold capillaroscopy. In scleroderma patients, there is a thickening and fibrosis of distal arteries, leads to hairpin end appearance. These are the hairpin end appearance seen in scleroderma. Coming to another variant of scleroderma is diffuse cutaneous systemic sclerosis. Around 30% of patients are suffer from diffuse systemic sclerosis. This is a more devastating or more rapid onset of variant of scleroderma. There is skin thickening, Raynaud phenomenon occurring together or within short interval. It can occur. It can involve entire body. That's why it is called as diffuse. In limited scleroderma, only there are peripheries, distal to elbows and distal to knees are affected in limited scleroderma. But in diffuse cutaneous scleroderma, there is entire body can be involved in diffuse scleroderma. Along with there is internal organ involvement. Internal organ involvement must be seen in the diffuse scleroderma. This is the diagrammatic representation of limited and diffuse scleroderma. This is diffuse scleroderma. This is limited scleroderma. Other rare types are systemic sclerosis, science scleroderma, and only internal organ involvement without skin changes. Almost every organ can be affected in scleroderma. Skin major organs involved in scleroderma are skin. This is sclerodactyly or skin thickening. Involvement of lungs in the form of interstitial lung disorders or pulmonary fibrosis or pulmonary hypertension. Involvement of GIT. There is a fibrosis of musculature of GI wall or leads to pneumatosis intestinalis or scarring or strictures of the GIT. Involvement of either even pancreas or internal organs can be involved in scleroderma. Involvement of musculoskeletal system, involvement of renal, involvement of cardiac. Coming to clinical manifestation, the earliest and most common clinical features are fatigue and weight loss. These are the constitutional features seen in any connective tissue disorder. This is called as prayer sign because of unable to extend interphalangeal joints because of skin thickening or contracture formation leads to prayer, like prayer. People place hands in prayer. Unable to oppose the palmar surface of both palmar or volar surface of both hands is known as prayer sign. Prayer sign is a classical feature of Raynaud's systemic sclerosis. This is microstomia, decreased oral aperture because of thickening of orbicular or atrophy or thickening of orbicular sacca and accumulation of collagen in subcuticular or ellipse. This is a dry skin or sometimes called as livedo reticularis. This is the musculoskeletal features. I already told you this is a digital gangrene. This is also another feature of Raynaud's phenomenon. There are other features like joint pain or arthritis or myalgia and the restriction of joint movement because of contractures or muscle atrophy or skin sclerosis. There are tendon friction nerves because of collagen or calcification of tendons or collagen in tendons leads to there is a friction nerves while movement of any joint. GI features like heartburn or reflux, the gastroesophageal reflux because of reduced patency or competency of distal esophageal sphincter, and there is esophageal scarring and dysphagia. There is delayed gastric emptying because of there is delayed gastric emptying because there is diminished movement of stomach because of fibrosis. Fibrosis leads to decreased musculature and decreased nerve supply. There is diminished gastric movement or decreased esophageal motility. Pulmonary features in the most common pulmonary feature is interstitial lung disease or diffuse pulmonary fibrosis. This pulmonary fibrosis is a slowly progressive disease associated with collapse of alveoli, accumulation of collagen in subalveolar tissue leads to there is a constriction of vasculature, pulmonary vasculature leads to decreased pulmonary vasculature supply or reduced alveolar compliance. This is the HRCT picture of pulmonary fibrosis. There is accumulation of collagen leads to reduced air component, alveolar component of lungs. This pulmonary fibrosis predominant in basal zones of the lungs. This is X-ray picture depicting pulmonary fibrosis. There is a radiodense opacity, non-homogeneous radiodense opacity, predilection for both lower lobes. These are the lower lobes. This is the lower lobe of left lung. This is the lower lobe of right lung. There is a haziness. This is the normal lung. This is the haziness because of fibrosis. This is the hematological histopathologic depiction of systemic sclerosis. This picture denotes there is a prominent right descending pulmonary artery. Prominent right descending pulmonary artery, abrupt termination of distal vasculature. This is the classical feature of pulmonary hypertension seen in scleroderma. One of the feature of scleroderma. Pulmonary hypertension seen in 25% of the patients with scleroderma. There are renal manifestations. Renal manifestation means there are pathognomic feature of pathognomic renal manifestation of scleroderma is scleroderma renal crisis. Scleroderma renal crisis is diagnosed when there is abrupt rise of systolic blood pressure more than 30 mmHg or diastolic blood pressure more than 20 mmHg. There is increased serum creatinine more than 50% of the baseline or increased creatinine more than 20% of the upper limit of the normal. if there is a proteinuria more than 2% by dipstick, or the presence of hematuria, presence of RBC in urine. This is histopathological appearance of there is a fibrin necrosis because of accumulation of collagen in intima, or a period of time there is a fibrin necrosis in renal vasculature, leads to reduced renal blood supply. There is a renal artery stenosis. This renal artery stenosis, compensatory activation of renal angiotensin system, leads to hypertension. This hypertension is called as hypertension secondary to renal artery stenosis in scleroderma is called as scleroderma renal crisis. Cardiac manifestations in the form of pericardial effusion, microvascular coronary artery disease, myocarditis, arrhythmia, conduction abnormalities. Because of fibrosis, there is a interruption of this nerve supply of heart. Like there is a conduction block in between AV nodes, SA node and AV node. These bundles, Purkinje bundle of His and Purkinje fibers are destroyed by this fibrotic process, leads to arrhythmia and conduction abnormalities. How we can diagnose scleroderma? By physical examination, because of based upon clinical features, and blood tests like autoantibodies. These autoantibodies are either antinuclear antibodies or anti-SL70 antibodies. These are the antibodies can be seen in scleroderma. The predominant antibody we can identify is SCL70, followed by anti-centromere antibody. Another autoimmune antibody can be seen in scleroderma. The major antibodies are anti-SCL70. This anti-SCL70 is diagnostic of diffuse scleroderma. These anti-centromere antibodies are diagnostic of limited scleroderma or CREST syndrome. If there is a mixed process like co-occurrence of mixed connective tissue disorder along with scleroderma, then we can identify the autoimmune antibodies like ribonucleoprotein UNRNP or U3RNP. These are the another investigation we can suggest a diagnosis of scleroderma. Like respiratory, we can go for HRCT, look for any pulmonary fibrosis or pulmonary hypertension. We have to go for HRCT, chest X-ray, or pulmonary function test. Pulmonary function test can assess the peak expiratory flow rate, residual volume, tidal capacity. All of those, based upon those things, we can assess and quantify the prognosis of the disease. GA system, to look for esophageal dysmotility, we have to order for barium swallow and esophageal manometry, because of to assess the gastroesophageal reflex. And to identify the gastroesophageal reflex, the ideal or gold standard investigational choice is esophageal manometry. If there is any renal involvement or not, we can identify by urine examination, presence of urine proteinuria or hematuria, identify there is a renal involvement in scleroderma. And assess for 24-hour urinary protein, other renal function tests like serum creatinine, blood urea, serum alkaloids. And we have to assess the cardiovascular system by either 2D echo or ECG. ECG can assess the conduction abnormalities. 2D echo can assess the function of ventricles, or there is any dilated cardiomyopathy or any restrictive cardiomyopathy secondary to scleroderma. And musculoskeletal system, involvement of musculoskeletal system can be assessed by X-ray. The diagnostic criteria for scleroderma is either involvement of one major or two minor criteria. The major criteria comes under scleroderma are symmetrical thickening, tightening, induration of skin of the fingers and skin of proximal metacarpophalangeal joints or metatarsophalangeal joints, and the change may affect the entire extremity, face, neck, and the trunk. Minor criteria like sclerodactyly, distal pitting, or bibasilar pulmonary fibrosis. There is an acronym in scleroderma, that is VEDAS. VEDAS means very early diagnosis of sclerosis. This initiative was begun in Europe. This VEDAS can be identified by following features in early stages of scleroderma. That is puffy fingers in Raynaud's syndrome patients, anti-nuclear antibodies, scleroderma specific antibodies, and SSC pattern in nail-fold capilloscopy. Anti-nuclear antibodies like anti-SL70 or anti-centromere antibodies. The investigations comes under these VEDAS are either capilloscopy or serum anti-nuclear antibodies. We have to monitor patients during entire lifetime based upon review of symptoms or blood pressure monitoring, renal function monitoring, lung function monitoring, or CT chest or ECG echocardiography to assess cardiac function. If patient develop Raynaud's phenomenon, we have to manage with either calcium channel blockers, so either sildenafil, either or parental vasodilators like iloprost or prostaglandin analogs, that is prostacyclin analogs. These are useful in Raynaud's phenomenon. Beta blockers are contraindicated in Raynaud's phenomenon. Other newer drugs approved for the treatment of Raynaud's phenomenon are pentoxifillin. Pentoxifillin is a rheological agent. Rheological agents means it can modulate RBC membrane. By modulating RBC, increase the motility of RBC membrane leads to RBC can travel through even narrowed vasculature. It is a xanthine derivative indicated in chronic occlusive peripheral vascular disorders. The usual dose of pentoxifillin is 400 mg BID or TID. We can manage gastroesophageal reflux with either proton pump inhibitors or prokinetic agents like mozapride. If patient has developed pericarditis, we have to prescribe NSAIDs. NSAIDs are anti-inflammatory drugs, can reduce inflammation, can reduce pericarditis pain. These are the disease-modifying drugs we can useful in any connective tissue disorders like SLE or rheumatoid arthritis. These are methotrexate. Initially, we have any flare-up of connective tissue disorders, we have to treat with steroids, followed by maintenance of any connective tissue disorder with immunosuppressive drugs like methotrexate, azathioprine, mycophenolate mofetil, cyclosporin, and cyclophosphamide. If patient developed severe hypertension, we have to manage with angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors. If patient developed hypothyroidism, we have to manage with an L-thyroxine, supplementation of L-thyroxine. If patient has developed pulmonary hypertension, we have to give endothelin antagonists like bosentan or prostaglandin like iloprost, epoprostenol, and nitrates like sildenafil. We have to advise physiotherapy to prevent contractions of digits, to prevent contractions of hands and foot. Physiotherapy are regular exercises. Avoid Raynaud's phenomenon to prevent frequent occurrence of Raynaud's phenomenon by avoiding exposure to cold and use wearing of thick clothes. Lifestyle modification is very important in any connective tissue disorders because smoking and nicotine containing any substance can aggravate fibrosis or Raynaud's phenomenon in any connective tissue disorder. That's why patients have to avoid smoking. Okay, thank you very much.